Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I did, looking at all of the hilarious memes following the Candace Owens Andew Wilson beatdown where she literally mopped the floor with him. I've got myself playing here. The funniest one to me was Babylon B, I think, did paved over the crime scene quickly. And it was construction workers paving over Candace Owens' studio. We're going to get into the aftermath of the debate, some hilarious stuff that went on this weekend. We're also going to dive a little bit deeper into some resurfaced clips of Charlie Kirk saying that he was more afraid of somebody in his circle trying to betray him than he was of a crazy leftist. We're going to look a little bit closer at Blake Neff. Don't forget, he was a Marine Corps War Games specialist. But before we do that, we're just going to briefly touch on the fact that Hayden Paniterre, former Disney star, actress, lost her life. I want to say hello to the chat. Mar R310, Megan K Wisdom. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here. So in my generation, I don't even know exactly where I know Hayden Panettiere from, but Disney Channel rings a bell. I was looking up her IMDb page. She was also in Ant's Life. And then I remember she was in a relationship in the early 2000s where I think she was in an abusive relationship. She became a mom. We really haven't seen much of her, but she did openly earlier in March of this year talk about her addiction struggles. And the official narrative that is coming out, People Magazine, TMZ, is saying that Hayden did pass away from an apparent overdose. It says Hayden Panettiere suffered apparent overdose, was unresponsive as advanced life support was administered before death. Apparently, this happened in South Carolina. And it says that authorities are investigating her death, but have found no signs of foul play or suspicious circumstances so far. She leaves behind a 12-year-old daughter. And the thing that people are now finding suspicious about this is that when she did a podcast earlier this year, yes, she was open about her struggles with alcohol and substances and postpartum mental health issues that she had. But she also opened up about this. Eric Moutsos, one of my good friends, content creator, that's how him and I met, both creating content. We've become good friends. He's such a good guy. He did this video and it really made me think because I had not seen this. Again, not really heard or, talked about Hayden in years because she hasn't really been that active in the acting scene, at least not to my knowledge, nothing I've been watching. But I guess she did this podcast earlier this year, and this, Eric believes, might be the reason that she died. In other words, that she did not die of a accidental overdose, that maybe somebody had something to do with that. Let's watch this.
She was starting to speak out on some very powerful people, types of people that Trump should have arrested.
Right about a moment in your career where a friend of yours takes you onto a boat, you're led to a room which has an older man in it, and then basically told to perform sexual acts and,
Oh, yeah. Perspective completely shifted, and I realized that I was in danger. But by the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite literally out to sea. And it was that moment shook me and was shocking. And I was quite literally put walked down, and I had been having a great time. There was no hints of anything like that happening. So it took me, I was shocked. It took me by surprise. And it was led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back. And to be walked down, down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave, and I mean that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide, and I bolted, and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to, I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation that this was.
Okay. That is so disturbing and sad. And you hear this stuff all the time, specifically in the era that she was acting in. To these Nickelodeon stars, Amanda Bynes, even Selena Gomez, Hilary Duff. The list goes on. And I will tell you, as somebody who reads Celebrity Blinds, there is a known culture in Hollywood with these celebrities, even if they're under 18, where they call them yachties. And these rich individuals that own yachts or go out on these super yachts, they know the culture is aspiring actresses, aspiring singers, musicians. Sometimes they're aware of it, sometimes they are not, are taken out to sea, where now you are in maritime law, right? You're in the middle of the ocean. Like Hayden said, there's nowhere to go. And it's kind of the wild, wild west out there. This is one of the reasons I ain't getting on a cruise ship. This is one of the reasons why I believe so many children go missing on Disney cruises, on Carnival cruises. So many grapes happen on these cruises. When you look at the SA that happens on cruise ships, the numbers are astronomical, and they're disproportionate than if you were to go on a vacation and stay at the Hilton or the Hyatt or the Marriott or wherever, because they're out to sea. You're trapped. There's nothing you can do. They're called yachties. There's rumors out there that Meghan Markle was a yachty, and that's how she ended up, maybe not, honeypotting or getting together with Prince Harry. I got to be careful on here. And then you hear of these other stories like Hayden, where they're known, they're very young, and these rich individuals that are famous say, I want her. I want her. Go get her for me. And that's it. Now, I'm not alleging that the people I'm about to name on these super yachts had anything to do with Hayden. But we do know that Bill Gates is a big yachter out there. And there's a lot of information out there about Bill Gates yachting around. Okay? He's not just in the Epstein files getting STDs from Russian workers. Okay? He's out there in the seas all the time. Is there a reason that Leonardo DiCaprio is lecturing us about climate change, but yet he doesn't have girlfriends older than age 18? I don't know. But my heart goes out to Hayden's family, however she passed away, but also specifically that she had to deal with that incident, where she quickly realized that someone she trusted put her in a room with a naked older man who was expecting who knows what from her, and she had to go hide. And when someone has openly admitted that they have had issues with substance abuse, it would be hypothetically very easy to get rid of them in the way of an accidental overdose. Because you have them on record recently admitting to these struggles, saying all the times that you've seen me go to these treatment centers, I've wanted to go. So I'm not sure what happened, but I do think that that is something to bring up. And if the chat can help me here, who is the guy from Friends who got sober and then all of a sudden passed away, and he was looking into some stuff as well? For some reason, I can't remember the name. But you know who I'm talking about. He was Chandler on Friends, and he started uncovering some things. And for sure, in Hollywood, you see this time and time again, right? Kim Porter, P. Diddy's ex-wife, all of a sudden gets pneumonia at 43 and passes away the same time that she's openly saying that she's going to release a book about what was really going on at these white parties. Now, 43-year-olds don't pass away from pneumonia. Ellen DeGeneres' girlfriend. Jumping out of the body bag, ladies and gentlemen. Matthew Perry. Thank you. So, anyways, I don't know what happened to Hayden, but she leaves behind a 12-year-old daughter, and that is heartbreaking. And it is so sad. But I do think that that clip that Eric Moutsos did should be in consideration for possibly what could be behind her passing. Now, it's Monday. I had to say rest in peace, but I don't want this whole entire live to be sad. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break it up with something hilarious that took place over the weekend. Obviously, we know that Candace Owens mopped the floor, ladies and gentlemen. She beat down Andew Wilson so bad, it was embarrassing. The internet has spoken, and it was a clear win, right? The only people that don't think that Candace Owens won are the hardcore TPUSA people and the same people that don't think that the Epstein files should be released. I mean, I really don't know how else to say it. So anyways, Candace Owens over the weekend hops into Baron Coleman's live with a super chat for $50. I thought this was the funniest thing I had seen because she's already starting to spend that $300 and she's doing it in a hilarious way. Let's watch this clip.
This money is... that's the principal. This money is from Andew Wilson. Well, now she's down to $299,950, guys. $299,950. And she's got a great sense of humor. That actually made me laugh, Candace. Thank you. That was very, very funny. Very, very funny. Golly, that's funny.
It really is hilarious. It really is hilarious. And Baron Coleman has just been so critical in this case, as we all know, uncovering so many different pieces of information, but started with the Google trends. And meanwhile, While Candace Owens is cracking jokes, sending $50 here and there, down to $299.95. Andew Wilson is still a delusional narcissist who thinks that he actually won this debate. Immediately after, he posts this. Nap was nice. Self-evaluation, 7 out of 10 would have been a 7.5, but I see the point. There was a minor brain fart at the end. Owens, 3 out of 10. No evidence-based positions at all on alternative claims. You know, the fact that this guy is, look, the internet's destroying him. Like I said, with the exception of a small portion of the population that is just going to stick up for that TPUSA, the Fox News, Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk with a 30-06, wipe my hands of it, I'm done. Except for those people, everybody's like, he got run over by a truck, his reputation's done. It's over. But he doesn't stop there. He continues on because Patrick Bet David did a poll and there was like 150 to 200,000 votes that basically said it was a 70-30 win for Candace Owens. He couldn't stop. He couldn't let anybody think that that was the case. So now he came out with this. Every AI source will say I won. That was never in question. Specific AI programs built for this purpose will also say so. The polls are simply a reflection of who has the larger audience post-debate. During the debate, I won those too. It's not hard to understand. You know what's not hard to understand? That you couldn't name one of the 7 charges. That's not hard to understand. You could not name one of the 7 charges. It's not hard to understand that you started off calling Erica Kirk too retarded to run TPUSA, and then all of a sudden you became the biggest shill for TPUSA. No, she needs to carry on Charlie's legacy. I think we all know at this point that he didn't pay the $300,000. I think TPUSA paid that money. Anna Kasparian says, how does one agree to pay $300,000 to debate a criminal case when they don't even know what the suspect is charged with? What is that? Andew Wilson replies, $300K was nothing to me to prove that Candace had zero evidence for any of her claims. None, zero. So it's like what we see time and time again. It's the same talking points. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again with the TPUSA organization. And to be quite honest, all of the MAGA influencer group that is now aligned with Erica Kirk, they're not questioning anything anymore. The Jack Posobiacs, the Benny Johnsons, which, by the way, in a way, I was kind of a part of that crew last year, 2 years ago, when I was on TikTok every single night promoting President Trump to be the next president of the United States. Because I wanted the things that he said he was going to run for. I wanted the Epstein files. I wanted no new wars. I wanted to lower the price of groceries, of oil, of homes, of gas. I wanted to make the American dream alive. I wanted to cut the debt. I wanted to build the wall. I wanted to put America first. And so there's a lot of people now that are associated with that same crew, that MAGA crew, the Jack Posobiacs, the Benny Johnsons. Benny Johnson had posted me several times on his page back in 2024. But now that I'm questioning a lot and I'm not in support of President Trump because I don't believe this is 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D chess. There's been campaigns against me, discrediting or debunking my videos, which is hard to do when I'm a self-proclaimed tinhead conspiracy theorist. And I've said this time and time again, that I explore a lot of theories. I always say, question me, question everything. What do I know? What do I know? But older millennial came after me while he was in Israel kissing the wall. And so it's those influencers that are associated with TPUSA that call themselves conservatives, which I find interesting because we have the clip of Erica Kirk now from her USA Miss Arizona pageant days, where she's saying she supports women that are prostitutes. Anything that you can do to stimulate the economy, this is a free country. If you've got pay-per-view, that's what she says. What? So they go off on these campaigns. That's who Erica Kirk is inviting with her 15 seats into the courtroom with Tyler Robinson. Brandon Tatum, who I used to love, comes on my page all the time and pretends he's a part of Game of Thrones and always writes in the comments, shame, shame. I'm like, look, we all know how much money you made from those freedom shirts and the merch after Charlie Kirk died. I know what side you're on now. Okay? I know what side you're on now. But they're just going to say that Candace lost, that there was no evidence, that Andrew did great. It's like, don't believe your eyes and your ears, right? Don't believe that gas prices are more expensive because President Trump is playing 60 chess. It's crazy. It's crazy that people will sacrifice their morals and their character and their common sense like they're rooting for a football team. This is the future for our children. And some people might say, oh my gosh, but who cares who killed Charlie Kirk? Well, I care because as someone who loves to honor our constitutional right, freedom of speech, our first right, especially as a woman, I want to make sure that other people that are doing that are not assassinated publicly because they've spoken out against the wrong thing. And we should all stand up for that because that is a cornerstone of why this country was built and founded and what makes it so special. Now, speaking of Charlie Kirk, a new clip has surfaced where he says that he was not worried about a crazy purple-haired leftist assassinating him. Sure, that was on his radar, but what he was more concerned about was somebody inside his circle. And I think that when we go back and we look at what Charlie Kirk says about a lot of different things, it's important to pay attention because they're little Easter eggs for the case that we're dealing with now. Let's go ahead and listen to Charlie in his own words.
Well, so there's two types of haters. There's I was trying to find a nice way to say this, but I'm not going to say it. There's
I can say it for you.
Yeah, there's like the purple-haired jihadist on a college campus that wants to murder me and my family.
Oh.
That, like...
I don't have those kind of haters.
Yeah, I know. Those people don't bother me, whatever.
See, my haters are nothing now.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they have weapons. We get death threats almost every day. That's part of the game of the space that I'm in. The other type of haters, though, are the ones that are the close proximity ones. And these are the ones I know that had some sort of relationship with me and either betrayed me or deceived me or said that I could not succeed. That is a whole different... Those actually get my attention.
Yeah.
Just like the random troubled person on a campus, whatever.
I find that to be really interesting for several reasons, but for one of the reasons because you won't just bring up the fact that you're worried about somebody on the inside being a threat unless somebody on the inside has been a threat, right? Like if I'm Charlie Kirk and I'm getting death threats every day, I don't think that I would also say, but I'm worried about people that were close to me or are in my inner circle. That's what actually scares me more than these actual legitimate death threats that I'm getting every day. Unless, of course, you knew there was a threat there. Right? Now, I'm somebody who's always questioning everybody, right? So I understand that even, at my little level, that, you meet some random person or you meet a certain content creator. This has happened to me where I connect with a content creator online. I try to check my DMs all the time. And obviously, Danny Love is not my real last name. It was a nickname that I had all through high school, all through college. So I used it because I don't want people to know my full name, because there are weirdos out there. I've had content creators reach out to me. We talk on the phone and then they say, what's your real last name so I can save it in my phone? And I go, no, you can just put WFF News. Like, I'm not giving you my information. Things like that raise my alarm bells because I go, why does it matter what I'm saved in your phone? Why does it matter? Most of my girlfriends from college, their maiden names are saved in my phone. I never updated it when they got married. They're still their maiden names in my phone. Why does it matter? If I know you on a first name basis and you don't even have a last name, why does it matter? But I've had that happen to me several times where I connect with these content creators. What's your last name so that I can save it in my phone? You don't need that. So I can't even imagine what Charlie Kirk dealt with. I can't even imagine. But the fact that everybody close to him at TPUSA is just going along with the official narrative and not even questioning anything when the whole point and thesis of Turning Point USA is to question everything is a little sus. And it makes you wonder, not if they're the ones that murdered him, but if they were complicit in some sort of plan. Because why wouldn't you just explore everything? And why would you have such a concerted effort to prove Candace Owens wrong? Or to prove these different content creators wrong? And call them stupid and conspiracy theorists and idiots? And just like Andew Wilson did, another TPUSA talking point, which just made it that much more clear to me that he was a TPUSA Trojan Horse. We talked about this on my last live. He ain't a horse, okay? At best, he's a Trojan donkey. That jackass coming in ain't doing much. But in his opening statements, he did the same thing that the Epstein Binder Club did, and he repeats the same talking points. Candace Owens is single-handedly breaking up the Republican Party. No, Trump's administration is doing that because he's not delivering on the promises that he made of no new wars, of less expensive groceries and gas and life and the American dream and cutting the deficit. It's not Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson that are causing this problem. It's the administration that seems to be more aligned with the World Economic Forum and the globalist elite 2030 agenda than they are with the American people. Flock cameras are going up everywhere. Okay? No water. The data centers are sucking up the water. We're building 1 million data centers. It was all about climate change, and now nobody's saying anything about the Colorado River getting sucked up and dried up. But Candace Owens is the reason that the Republican Party is fractured. You can make up as many reasons as you want why the Republicans are probably going to lose the midterms, but it ain't Candace Owens, I hate to tell you. And by the way, I still want the things that I wanted in 2024, so I know that I haven't changed. I know the administration has changed. And I think Charlie Kirk is something that opened the eyes to a lot of other people. It was a backfire that happened where people go, we're not going to question this. Trump's not going to come out and talk about this. Charlie Kirk, who probably is a main reason why Trump was actually elected this second term, he's not going He's not going to do anything. Erica Kirk's not going to say anything. Andrew Colvit's not going to say anything. Blake Neff's not going to say anything. Candace Owens and Baron Coleman are the only ones. And then when you see clips like this from Stu Peters' show talking about how JD Vance's plane was seen flying places before and after September 10th last year, it makes you wonder if there's a reason they're so aligned and so quiet. I'm talking about TPUSA and the Trump administration. Let's go ahead and watch this clip. It might be a little long, but oh no, it's not that long. There's just a lot of information in here, but it's worth it. I might have to refresh this. Oops. Look it. They don't even want me playing this.
Facility died. The plane that Pete Hegseth almost exclusively uses, its tail number is 99-0404. On September 8th, the day that Mitch Snow says that he saw Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips on Fort Huachuca, that plane goes from Joint Base Andrews out west and then ends up at Fort Huachuca. And it flew there under a call sign SAM 702. What SAM means is Special Air Mission. The only people who can approve or authorize or order a Special Air Mission flight are the president and the vice president.
Wow.
30 days after Charlie Kirk is murdered, there is a munitions production facility called AES, which is called Accurate Energetic Systems. It's in Eastern Tennessee. There's like virtually nothing else out there. And what they do is they build explosives and they deliver to, like excavators, and they also do contracts for the government. The Department of Defense had placed a $440,000 order just ahead of Charlie Kirk's death for a micro explosive from AES. Well, 2 weeks after Charlie Kirk is murdered, tons of people saw this where I'm like, oh, that was a weaponized lavalier microphone that blew up, and that's what killed Charlie Kirk. The thing went massively viral. 2 weeks after that, AES, this production facility that delivered the micro explosives to the DOD, satisfied the order. It explodes October 30th, which is 2 weeks after I released this video about an explosive killing Charlie Kirk. The day that this thing blows up, tail number 99-0404, the plane almost exclusively used by the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth, that morning, that plane left Joint Base Andrews and went to Fort Huachuca. At the time that this thing was smoldering after it had just blown up, the plane that Pete Hegseth almost exclusively uses detours on its way to Joint Base Andrews to fly directly over the AES manufacturing facility that satisfied a $440,000 micro explosive order just ahead of Charlie Kirk's death, which blew up 2 weeks after I said, hey, explosives killed Charlie Kirk. And it flew over this part of Eastern Tennessee where there's nothing else but this thing. When that thing exploded, every employee on the inside died. 23,000 pounds of explosives blew up, killing everybody inside. Everybody in that facility died.
Okay, that's insane information. And Stu Peters was the first one to drop the exploding mic theory. And it's pretty clear from the debate with Andew Wilson, assuming that Andew Wilson was paid or got the money from TPUSA, which I strongly believe, to go debate Candace Owens, it's clear that they want to put that theory to rest. They do not want people exploring that theory, that it could have been an explosive. But when you look at the fact that Pete Hegseth's plane flew over the explosives factory right after it exploded, to me, I hear that information and I go, they want to make sure the job is done. They want to make sure the job is done, and they want to make sure that the job was done correctly. They want to make sure that there's nothing left of this explosives factory. And let's not forget, 16 people lost their lives there. So people have thrown around all of these theories as who did it, but it's weird that the Department of Defense would have placed that $400,000 order for those explosives, and then Pete Hegseth's plane flies over the explosives factory out of the way, on its way from base to base. And let's not even talk about where it was coming from, where it was going. It flies out of its way to fly over Tennessee to what? Make sure that the job was done. At least that's what it seems like to me. And of course, Andew Wilson tried to make sure that the explosives theory was put to rest. And then I found this to be really interesting. Let's see if this is on here. Another interesting situation when talking about planes, one of the Egyptian planes that Candace Owens names was actually, now when you go back and look at news coverage from Fox on October 13th, 2025, it appears that, September 2025, it appears that it's alongside Air Force One. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this. This is from Fox News.
He is all.
So this is what it says.
Went over to Egypt. I interviewed him early after he took over in June of 2014. He has always wanted to be at the center of some of.
So there you go. It's the exact same plane that Candace Owens named alongside Air Force One from the October 13th Gaza Peace Summit. Very weird. All of these coincidences, they'll call it, all of these coincidences with planes. And after this TPUSA event, after this debate between Candace Owens and I was going to say TPUSA because, of course, that's what I think Andew Wilson is a shill for, Stu Peters tweeted this. Blake Neff's whereabouts on the morning of 9/10 have suddenly become crucial to this case. Has anyone verified or corroborated Blake's timeline and whereabouts on the morning of the assassination? I keep encountering multiple stories filled with numerous inconsistencies. Stu Peters has been incredible on this case. Bloke the exploding mic theory, following that Pete Hegseth plane, having very strange activity. And I think he's right to keep his finger on Blake Neff's neck. I really do. I think Blake Neff is someone that really needs to be looked at closely in this whole entire operation, alleged operation that may have taken place against Charlie Kirk. Remember, you just heard Charlie Kirk's own words. He's more concerned about people that he knows betraying him than he is about the purple-haired person on a college campus. And let's not forget Blake Neff's background. He used to be a writer for Tucker Carlson. But before that, he was a war game strategist for the Marine Corps. Now, I have talked about this exhaustively, extensively, because I just cannot believe that this is not talked about more. Blake Neff, one of the top 3 in command at TPUSA, who was there for sure the day of September 10th, happened to be a Marine Corps war games strategist. And Tucker Carlson had to cut ties with him because he was a writer for Tucker Carlson, but he was caught having racist and sexist posts surface, which that's not the end of his racist post. He's been racist since Charlie Kirk's been assassinated. let's go ahead and zoom into this article. The Marine Corps has quietly cut ties with Blake Neff, a former top writer for conservative television host Tucker Carlson, after a number of racist and sexist online posts secretly written by Neff were uncovered. Secretly written seems to do a lot of stuff secretly. Here we go. Neff, 29, was one of many from a list of experts helping to support war gaming exercises at the Marine Corps War College. No one thinks that is pertinent information to this case? You have a guy who goes rogue, secretly writing posts online that are sexist and racist, who used to train the Marine Corps' War College students on war gaming exercises. He was one of their experts. Let's continue with the article. Neff had been a war gaming subject matter expert for the college since 2016. And had taken part in wargaming exercises with Marines more than a dozen times. This is an individual who strategizes in war games. He teaches Marine Corps how to strategize when you're in war. You don't think that it's important information to know where Blake Neff was the night before Charlie Kirk's assassination. A guy who strategized 10 years previously on how to win war games. I don't know about you, but I think that's something that needs to be looked into, especially since we learned during the preliminary hearing that the Noble family, they're the family that turned over the Ring camera footage of Tyler Robinson's alleged car driving by their house, told officers that they believe the individual driving the vehicle was a bald man and had 3 guys in the background. In the back of the car. Last I checked, Tyler Robinson's worn a lot of outfits. He's worn a lot of hats. He's worn a black shirt, a maroon short, jean shorts, a blue backpack, a black backpack. It's like a Dr. Seuss book. But he's always had hair. As far as I know, he's always had hair. And then there's that X spaces that Blake Neff kind of fumbled talking about where he was the night of September 9th and couldn't prove it. And in that X spaces where he was saying, well, I don't really remember where I was. How do you not remember where you were? It's the night before your boss and supposed friend was assassinated and killed. You know, the show that you still host every day under his page? That's weird. That's odd. Charlie Kirk's live. No, Blake Neff is live. Blake Neff is live. And if you're the Department of Defense or the War Games, the Department of War, and you know you have a guy on the inside of an organization whose CEO you want offed because it's getting in the way of war with Iran, and you know there's a guy on the inside that was a war games expert strategist for the Marine Corps, I don't know. Maybe you give him a ring? Blake Neff never did give a concrete answer to answer your question, Lady Luck, and great to see you. But he did say something interesting in the live where he was trying to explain where he was. But before I get into that, I just want to prove what a piece of shit Blake Neff is and prove that he's still a racist. Okay? Candace Owens had obviously hit a nerve here. And Blake Neff posted that she needs to stop pushing her narcissistic conspiracy slop. That is a pejorative, that is a racist slur that he is using here. So he doesn't care. This organization doesn't care. They just want to take her down and they want to sow division in whatever way they can. But it's not right. This is a clip of Baron Coleman calling out the fact that when Blake Neff is supposed to be answering for where he was the night before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he accidentally exposes that he knows who Tyler Robinson met with from TPUSA. Remember, we learned from the preliminary hearing that Tyler Robinson apparently the morning of September 10th, the morning of the assassination, went and talked to somebody at the TPUSA tent. And I did a story on that. I was like, what? Why is nobody talking about this? That's crazy to me. That he went and met with a representative from TPUSA. Let's go ahead and watch this.
Which representative did he meet with, by the way? Because we're very curious. Do tell.
Sorry, can you repeat that? This morning, the leading officer on the case, right, of the Utah SBI, right? He was giving the timeline of events. And during that timeline of events, the officer said that Tyler Robinson, in his shorts, the first time he went there around 10 a.m. in the morning, he climbed through the stairwell wearing his shorts. He didn't have the pants and the limp and all of that. And after he left the parking lot structure, he met with, and this is his words, okay, met with TPUSA representatives. Do you know who they are? Tyler Robinson on September the 10th?
And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you because you guys would just harass that person. And I know that person didn't do anything.
Oh,
I know that person didn't do anything. How do you know that? Blake? How do you know that person didn't do anything? Well, the only way you could know that person didn't do anything is if you know who that person is. And he just said, I'm not going to tell you who it is. Even if I did know, I'm not going to tell you. Well, that kind of is conditional. Maybe he doesn't know. But then he says, I know that person didn't do anything, meaning I know who it was. They've been holding this the whole time. That indicates to me they were aware of this fact. And in their mountain of evidence that they kept recounting about the DNA on the rifle that Tyler owned, the DNA on the screen, he doesn't know. But then he says, I know that.
Pretty big slip up for a war games strategist, a war games expert that actually taught the Marine Corps. Or maybe they just don't care anymore, right? I mean, TPUSA has somehow gotten their hands on evidence that should have been admitted as evidence, I should say. The microphone, the handheld microphone that's now on tour with TPUSA that Charlie Kirk was holding, they say blood spatter and all. They have it in a case. They've never submitted into evidence the Rode mic that he was wearing. And we know that Joseph Scott Morgan, a forensic expert, has said that that would fall below the standard to not admit everything that was on his body into evidence, because that is how medical examiners and autopsy experts determine the cause of death. Because, for example, the shirt that was cut down the middle by the head of security, Brian Harpole, we don't know where that shirt is. Maybe it'll come out during the trial that it was admitted into evidence. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it wasn't. That shirt could prove it was a 30-06. You can literally put Tyler Robinson away with these pieces of evidence. But no, the microphone is on tour. We don't know where the wireless Rode mic is. The shirt was cut off him. Was it admitted into evidence? We don't know. And then, of course, the necklace that Charlie Kirk was wearing that somehow exploded at the sternum when he was shot in the neck. Well, that just happened to be a miracle that Frank Turek found it in the SUV that transported Charlie Kirk to the hospital, draped over his computer bag, and he knew Erica Kirk was talking about it, so he gave it to her. She repaired it. And that's what you see her holding out the SUV in the window. If my husband was assassinated, I would want to make sure that everything was admitted into evidence, because I would want to catch the person or organization or group that did this. Unless, of course, I already knew what was going to transpire. Unless, of course, I was a part of it. And, of course, there's a million other explanations between you should know, you should want to know, and involved. Sure. But it's almost like they're waving stuff in our face. Tyler Robinson talked to somebody, but I know they didn't know anything, so I'm not going to tell you who it was. Well, there's only so many people that were there. Was it Frank Turek? Was it Brian Harple? Was it Mikey McCoy? Who was at that tent? Or was it you, Blake? Or were you still driving around in a car that looked like Tyler Robinson's? Allegedly. The whole thing gets weirder and weirder. Oh, God. And I just want to show you the profile picture of this weasel, Andew Wilson. He thinks he's so cool, this pseudo-academic. His profile picture of is him smoking a cigarette. What a loser. I mean, I really want to call him a retard since he said all women are. But I'll just call him a loser. He is such an insufferable human being. It's hard to listen to him. Truly. Now, before we go, there's one other thing I want to show you. Diligent Denzian, who is the one that produced the receipt from Penguich. They've been doing their own investigation. They're very active in this citizen investigative journalist case to try and figure out what really happened to Charlie Kirk. They released footage saying that the prosecution is caught mirroring the Tyler Robinson stairway camera footage. They go to UVU. They go to the staircase where Tyler Robinson was famously filmed. We see this time and time again in the preliminary hearing of him walking with his backpack. We can't, of course, see his face, but remember, like Lance Twigg said, I can't say for sure. I can't say for 100% certainty, but that looks like his hat, and that looks like his shirt, and that looks like, yeah, the Converse, for sure the Converse. They went to UVU, and they show that the camera footage that we've been shown is actually mirrored. And the reason that's a problem is because that means that the timestamp would have had to have been changed. Because if it was mirrored, it would say something else, so then they would have to change the timestamp. So then it brings into question, was the timestamp added? And is that correct information? Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
All right, you guys, we caught the feds in another lie. So this is level 3, parking level 3 at UVU, where they have Tyler Robinson coming around the corner and coming down the stairwell. There's the camera right over here. But in the Fed version of their footage, this stairwell, which is actually on the left, on their version, it's on the right. So they have completely reversed this image. And not only have they reversed the image, they have also doctor the timestamps, because if you reverse the image, the timestamps would be reversed as well. So something ain't adding up here. Here's level 2 proving that the stairwell is actually on the left.
Very interesting, to say the least. Beyond. It reminds me of the Epstein footage where all of a sudden there's missing minutes. There's missing minutes. In the Epstein case, we're going to release this footage so we can prove to you that Epstein did not escape jail. Or that we didn't off him, or whatever. But there's going to be a minute missing. And we're going to prove to you that this was Tyler Robinson on the day at UVU. But now we found out that they would have had to add timestamps because they reversed and mirrored the image. So that leads me to wonder, could they have filmed this at a later point in time? With a, I don't know, body double. Someone that may have been Tyler Robinson, but maybe you can't tell for 100%, like Lance Twiggs said in his testimony during the preliminary hearing. And we know that body doubles exist. Boy, do we know. We saw Biden come out in 2023 looking like Shaquille O'Neal, ladies and gentlemen. 6'7" Biden with swinging earlobes and blue eyes, brown eyes, butt chin, no chin, droopy chin, we don't know. And not that I was planning on bringing this up, but now I have to go to it. Over the weekend, President Trump was out and about with a badonkadonk. So people, I mean, look, if we're going to bring up body doubles for Biden, we got to be fair. People are saying, when did he start packing so much ass? Badonk a donk. Oh my God. Let's see if we can see it again, or is it all this? He walks away. Either he's eaten too much Mickey D's, or he got a BBL. Because that looks like a shelf. Poor fitting suit? Some sort of a medical device? Is he wearing Depends? Does he have a pair of those shorts on? Look at it. He could be wearing one of these padded shorts underneath his suit. It is possible. Or we don't know who. There, presidents are known to have body doubles. This is, this is not just me, okay? It's known. Presidents around the world have body doubles because of assassinations or this and that. I'm just saying he's looking like Cardi B walking around. That's what I said. Could be Depends. But there's been so many instances where Trump doesn't look like Trump. There's been so many instances. So, who knows? But anyways, you guys, I'm back doing lives. So happy to do it. I've missed you guys so much. I just started this YouTube. I just started doing lives. And I really appreciate all of your support so much. I'm going to try to do them like 3 or 4 times a week. I used to do that on TikTok all the time. That's kind of how I got started. Just kind of doing the news. And of course, on Wednesdays, I'm with James Lee doing our podcast, The Today Show, down in San Diego. Megan, of course, I've got a matcha homemade. I'm slurping it down though. This is the end. There's about 50 cents at the bottom of this matcha left. And in this economy, I can't waste a dime. I'm going to be slurping that down. Anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. For those of you that are familiar with me, at the end of my lives, I do like to say a prayer. It's open for everybody to join in on. And so I'm going to start that now. Dear God, dear angels, we just want to pray for world peace. We want to pray for all of the good people in the world. We want to pray for the light. We want to pray for all of the good people to unite and fight for the light, to snuff out the darkness in this world. I do believe we are in a spiritual war, and I believe in the power of prayer. And together we are praying that the good people can overcome the evils that be. We ask for awareness and discernment in seeking out those people to make the right choices for ourselves. We want to pray for anybody in the world that is dealing with a health condition, whether it's a brain degenerative disease like Alzheimer's or dementia, or a mental health condition like anxiety or depression or eating disorders. Anybody that's dealing with liver issues or kidney issues or brain issues, that they find their path to healing, that you can wash over them. We want to pray for all of the people in the world that are in a war zone, all of the people that are scared, that are homeless, that are lonely, that are hungry, that you provide them with shelter and food. We want to pray for all of the good people in the world that no evil, weapons, plagues formed against them shall prosper. And we want to thank you, God and angels, for your protection and for your fight every day against the evils that exist. We want to pray for you. And we want to thank you for our life. We want to thank you for this day. And thank you for this opportunity to make a difference. In God's name we pray, amen. Hope I did an okay job there, but it makes me feel purposeful at the end of my lives, even if it's 2 people watching, however many people, that I pray with you. Because I do believe we're in a spiritual war, and I do believe that it makes a difference. Whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the universe, vibrations are real. We need to raise our vibrations. And sometimes doing the news, it's like, I don't want to bring people's vibrations down. So at the end, we got to bring them back up. You know what I mean? We got to bring them back up so that nobody's sucking our energy. We're learning what's going on so that we can see what their next move is going to be. And we're better prepared to fight against their really sloppy plans. But at the end of the day, all that matters is the good of the world, your family, your friends. Always remember that. Don't get caught up in the online world. Disconnect. Walk in nature. Go watch an actual live stream, water running through the world. And pray. Pray out loud. I believe in the power of prayer. I hope you do too. Angels are real. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you guys. I will see you maybe tomorrow, but later this week for sure. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Thank you for being here. God bless. Bye.